It's time to get mad, baby. Selections have been revealed, and the Bruins are a 7 seed in the Midwest region. Time to get back to Indianapolis again. But I think they're disrespected. It's the story of the year, am I right?
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast. It's available on YouTube, wherever you listen. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Man, what an interesting bracket. I didn't pick and didn't understand some of the selections. Who are the last teams in? Who are the last teams out? Luckily for the Bruins, there was no sweating as to whether they're in or not. They were clearly in. They were clearly a team that's been hovering around top 25 potential. And that's where UCLA is somewhat slotted. They are a Midwest region participant, a 7 seed, and I don't think the selection committee really gave the Bruins a lot of love here. This isn't a situation where UCLA, you look at projections, I've been going with Joe Lunardi, they were maybe going west, they were maybe being a 6 seed. A 7 seed seems like a flat-out slap in the face, if we're being quite honest. This is all because of the SEC love. If you look at the 6 seed in the West, they gave that to Missouri. The difference between that is, they think Missouri and the SEC did a lot better than what the Big Ten projected. That's really what this all comes down to, and how UCLA's been forgotten about, thrown about to the side. And all Cronin really wanted was to be in the West Coast. Not only do the Bruins not get the West Coast in their first round, they don't even get the West Regional. And the funny thing is they're going to go back to Indianapolis for another time. This is probably, their 4th trip to the state of Indiana if they go in a couple weeks. But that is a whole lot of talking and a whole lot of work to do before we can even think about the second weekend. First things first, the Bruins draw Utah State. I was looking, and it was potential that they're going to play UC San Diego in the first round. UCLA would have been a 6 seed. UC San Diego could have been a 12 as they were, or an 11 seed. And instead, what the Bruins got was a 10 seed in Utah State. Now, Utah State is certainly a beatable team, but they're a very good team that's been getting to the tournament. They're 26-7. They're in the Mountain West, I believe a 3-bid conference at the moment. They didn't win their conference tournament. They have beaten some good teams, have the Aggies. They beat Montana, a team who made it to the tournament. They beat Iowa by 8 on a neutral floor. They were able to get some decent wins, but what do we know about this Utah State team? They have a little bit of size. I'm not sure they're overly big, which means this is where Daimar is going to have to play extremely well for UCLA in this first round game. More importantly, Mick Cronin needs to use the big fella. All right? There are 2 players who stand 6'11" or taller for Utah State. One doesn't play as much. There's Abin Garetsi, and then they have the likes of Isaac Johnson. They're 6'11", 7 feet, all right? So they're not overly big. This game could be decided, though, in the backcourt from a Utah State perspective to a UCLA perspective. They'll have Ian Martinez. They have Mason Falsley. There is a team where they're going to shoot from 3. They've hit 296 threes. They're a 36% shooting team from downtown. This team overall averages a decent free throw shooting percentage, but they average 80 points per game. If Cronin's decree of defense must travel, it's going to have to for UCLA to win the first round matchup. That's just the first round matchup against Utah State. This is a winnable game, but easily a losable game. I just didn't think when UCLA popped up on the screen in the 7-10 matchup, I was flat out stunned. I did not believe that's where they'd be slotted. That just seems like how they were a month ago, but it seems like they're punished for the Minnesota loss. They're being punished for all these other losses just for not getting a win in the Big Ten tournament. Now you see Wisconsin, who got to the Big Ten tournament final, getting a lot of love. See Michigan, who was stuck as a 5 seed. It's just all over the place. And when I saw Michigan State was a 2 seed, Michigan State, I was like, okay, maybe they're going to give UCLA some love. Because you go beat a 2 seed, you go get some good wins like UCLA has over higher ranked teams. It just seems like, nope, not at all. All right. And the one little joke is that North Carolina is in the tournament simply because they beat UCLA at a neutral floor in December. All right. So if that was enough weight to carry with the name brand to put in North Carolina with one win, that one quad one win was against UCLA, that's funny. But the fact that then they get pushed down to the 7 seed, they were given no favors, 0 favors. And then to go to Lexington, Kentucky? Okay, let's analyze what this is. All right, dream with me for a moment. UCLA, they get through that first round. Okay, I'm not disrespecting. It's a Thursday battle against Utah State, but let's say they get through that second round. Getting Tennessee in the second round, oh my goodness, that is I'm not really a big fan of all this SEC love, but Tennessee is no slouch. A second round bout against the Tennessee Volunteers in Kentucky, that's going to be a very short travel for all those Volunteer fans, for all of Tennessee fans. Of course, they don't want to be anywhere near Lexington, but they'll gladly fill it up to cheer on for Tennessee against UCLA. Man, against Zakai Ziegler, against a Tennessee team that is potentially beatable, but I don't like that in a second round. That's really tough. And UCLA, last time they went to the Final Four, it took a first-round upset. It took Abilene Christian to knock out, Texas at the time, to get that easy second-round matchup. No, UCLA is going to fight tooth and nail in round 1, and round 2 is not going to be any easier. Oh, by the way, say they get to the Sweet 16. Who could you possibly play? A combination of Texas, Xavier, Troy, Kentucky in Indianapolis, or Illinois. I might have said Illinois already. Illinois is a really good team, and they beat UCLA, and when they're healthy, that's why they got the 6th seed. Kentucky is the 3 seed. Scrappy, I think, beatable. I'd be scared of Illinois. I'm scared of Tennessee. And some of those teams, UCLA is going to have to fight. This is a tough little quadrant UCLA's in just to get to the second weekend. I can't mince words here. Can it be done? Yes, but it is going to be with a team that needs rest, that's going to have to travel, and they won't have any hometown support if we're talking about, they could have played in Denver. They could have played in Seattle. No, they don't even get a West Regional in the second round to motivate them to get to San Francisco. You're just going to go to Indiana. And what Mick Cronin joke about, I got to pay taxes in Indiana. He literally does. But they've paid their taxes. Can they get back there and get the benefits, reap the rewards during what is going to be tax season, all that crazy nonsense? I don't know if I like that. They really did not get any favors. Location, opponent, seed, I think they got screwed and disrespected, okay? And if Mick Cronin doesn't use this to his advantage, I don't know what they're going to do. This is tough because I was hoping as a 6th seed, they'd go on a run. Now, if you're a dreamer, if you're a big-time college basketball dreamer, then you obviously know that Gonzaga is in this quad as well. And you probably were maybe thinking like me, not saying this is going to happen, but I definitely texted some of the Locked On hosts in semi-joking fashion, but knowing it's March, anything can happen. UCLA Gonzaga in the Elite 8, that is a possibility. Not sure Gonzaga can get through Houston and their quadrant, and UCLA can do the same. But hey, the Bruins have a total of 1, 2, 3 Big Ten teams. They've got a team they've already beaten on a neutral floor in a close game. Who knows? I'm not necessarily scared if they had to get through all that. It's interesting. I'm going to have to sit on this for a little bit because this team, I think, deserved much better than a 7 seed. But apparently, with the way they just got beat up in the Big Ten quarterfinal, not if they even – I don't even think they took that into consideration. That just shows you how much UCLA did in the regular season, and they did not care with what they did. The Bruins, who ended up 22-10, a full line below Illinois, few lines below Purdue, and that's why those games are so important later in the year. You win 1 or 2 of those games, UCLA's, the difference between a 4 seed and a 7 seed is so tight. 1 head-to-head win, 1 quad 1 win in either of those matchups, and UCLA's got a much easier path in the first weekend to what they got. Now, as I've said before, UCLA is just as likely to go into the third weekend as they are in the first weekend. And I've been a proponent since prior to this season that the Bruins can get to a third weekend, an Elite 8, and this team certainly can. But Utah State cannot be forgotten about. And mind you, they're on 3 coaches, 3 years, 3 NCAA tournaments in a row. That is a remarkable feat. Tennessee, we're going to learn what the SEC is all about in the NCAA tournament, all right? We'll find out. After all that, you're going to have some familiar faces, some blue bloods, some maybe conference foes, some underdogs if Texas or Xavier make it to that second weekend as that 11 seed. All unique things to discuss. But right now, I think UCLA is disrespected. They should use that in practice. With the Bruins going home early in the Big Ten tournament, they get the rest, but they're going to have to travel back again. That's so brutal. That's another thing that's so frustrating. UCLA gets to have to play on a Thursday, so they get a full week between games, right? Or 6 days off without a game. But they still got to go fly east, and then they go back. I don't like it. I really don't like it. Doesn't mean they can't do it, but the NCAA is like, who cares? Whatever. Completely off from what I talked about earlier, where UCLA was maybe a 6 seed in the West. I was looking at those projections. Man. When Texas got in over Indiana, and they were safely in, like Texas was one of those last 4 in and was like the fourth to last team in, you knew that the Big Ten was not getting the same respect that the SEC was. That's just not what they gave this year. Michigan won the Big Ten tournament. You're a 5 seed. Obviously, they don't care too much about a conference tournament that ends 2 minutes before the selection show. But, man, that's just how it rolls. I'm a little frustrated. I hope you are. Let me know what you think. Are they a first-round exit? Are they a day 2 exit? There's a lot going on in the mind right now. I'm not really sure how this bracket will feel, but at least we get to play on the opening day. Maybe it'll be an early game and will be one of the more entertaining battles. But for now, UCLA's got their work cut out for them just to get through day 1, just to get to round 2. Interesting. It is very interesting. It's finally here. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories. Maybe, hey, is UCLA going to cut down the nets, or are you going to bet for them, against them? That's why you can stay in on the action with FanDuel. Tournament games are happening almost every day from the beginning of the week through Sunday. There's always something exciting to bet on, and the FanDuel app is super easy to use, super simple. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. The Bruins have their work cut out for them, for sure. This was not a bracket where it's like an upset is going to jump in their favor. Most likely, an upset is not going to happen, I think. That can help them go from round 1 to round 2 to the Sweet 16. This is one of those setups that UCLA is just the team that has worked hard, they've fought through it, and they can earn it. Or they're just overrated and they were never going to make it deep. But this is one of those the Bruins are most likely going to have to earn it. They're going to have to, just to get to the second weekend. In the second weekend, I think that could line up a little bit better for a matchup that turns UCLA into a potential Elite 8 team. The second round, the second weekend is probably something that could be easier for UCLA to navigate than it is for the first round. Like, that is a tough little quadrant right there UCLA is going to deal with in Lexington, Kentucky, just to even get back to Indianapolis again, for crying out loud. All right? Ridiculous. They're going to go back to Indianapolis. Big Ten Media Day, this wild. Wild that they're going to get to Indianapolis. Might as well just throw them to Newark. Why not just keep them east and just go to Newark? Why Indianapolis? Whatever. That's what they get as a Big Ten member. And with all the eyes and everything, UCLA's a 7 seed in the Midwest. I don't like it, but there's still work to be done. And there's still absolutely a chance UCLA can do the great things, or they can make us mad, which is what the selection committee kind of made me feel right now. Anyways, hands up, Bruins fans. It's 8 clap time. We're going to be here all week long dissecting the women's bracket. Everything in the lead up to Thursday, you're going to want to be here on Locked On UCLA. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.